Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am here today with Double Experience. I would like to thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you very much for having us.
Would you like to introduce yourselves?
My name's Brock. I play guitar.
My name's Ian. I sing and play bass.
Awesome. Where and when did you guys get your start at?
Let's see. Well, Ian and I both played in different bands, but we would share shows with each other. And when various members of our band formed, dovetailing those two bands together and making all the missing pieces fit, I guess.
Cool. Where did you guys get your name? How did you think of it? It's a pretty cool name.
So, Brock and I kind of, we're nerdy dudes and we're not rocking on stage. And we play a lot of video games. Our friendship was forged over playing Call of Duty.
Cool.
So we kind of spent a lot of weekends, on Double Experience weekends, kind of just leveling up and playing. And then as Brock mentioned earlier about how our bands kind of dovetailed together, we were like, hey, you know what? We should call our band Double Experience because that just feels something that's really authentic to our friendship and our outlook on everything.
It was also the best name of the suggestions. We kind of all sat at a table, put the names in a pile, and I think there was Leaf Ring was mentioned, and Dangeresque was another name that was considered before we picked Double Experience.
That's awesome because even I can relate to that, remembering the Xbox 360 back when it was the console and when Black Ops just came out,
yeah.
What a time to be alive.
The simpler times.
Yeah.
There was a show, I think we were playing in Kingston, we actually covered the Black Ops theme live.
Yeah, I remember.
Was that at the Danko Jones show?
No, but we were opening for a band called Dead and Divine.
Cool.
So an old Canadian hardcore band.
And we weren't heavy enough to belong on that bill, so we were what would be pleasing to all the guys who showed up here, and we were let's just play the Black Ops cover, and yeah, that was something.
That's great. So you guys love video games. Aside from Black Ops, what's your favorite game and what's your favorite console to play on?
That is a good question because I feel that answer will always change. So we used to play Diablo 2, not just Diablo 3, but we would reinstall on our laptops these old games just to kind of play the multiplayer stuff together. But Destiny takes up a lot of our time. We're playing Apex a lot now, which is I guess Fortnite without building the Empire State Building
cool.
constantly. So
while they've been talking about re-releasing all of those D&D inspired games for PlayStation computer through Steam, because they've done a bunch of re-releases, so that's kind of
Baldur's Gate's coming up.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate I think is going to be the Christmas break of okay, I can sit down, I can just sink 3 days of my life just getting into the new Baldur's Gate.
That's awesome. Are there any games coming out soon you're really looking forward to?
Other than Baldur's Gate, I think wasn't there Obsidian just announced a new game. They made that. They made Fallout New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And since kind of Bethesda dropped the ball with the Fallout franchise, apparently this new game, you're this big. It's Honey I Shrunk the Kids meets Minecraft. I think they said that looks really interesting because it has a lot of that open world possibility. So I think I could take an extended vacation and just lose myself in a game like that.
Yeah, I think you talk about Mass Effect and Bethesda, and it's they just announced, they've been talking about it for a while, but a game called Starfield, which seems to be a Fallout in space. So it's that's at least the sense that I get. So that looks pretty good. They released a new Diablo 4, which is going to take all the amazing gameplay from 3 and then smash it up with just the loot engine of 2 and
the aesthetic.
Yeah, so I think a lot of those two games I think will end my life.
That's awesome. Okay, so I noticed you guys have a lot of content on YouTube. How did you guys get the attention of Blank TV? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? I remember them from years ago. When I saw that, I was whoa, that's the person that added me on Facebook in 2011,
Yeah, we've we sort of a couple years ago we used to make skit videos and not just music videos, but we learned that to be like a YouTuber, you got to be putting out stuff constantly.
Yeah.
So when we do make a video, we find these opportunities to let other people host it. So Blank TV was like one of those where it was like, we host the video, you can't host it. And we just said, yeah, sure. Because we're no longer trying to grow the YouTube as much as maybe we, but back in the day when we felt this pressure to just constantly be putting out, some kind of video. Now we just try and, let the people who are growing their YouTubes get some exclusive content from us.
That's pretty good. I noticed, like, the Glimmer shot, it's got 119,000 views. Holy shit. Like, what launched that song? What was it like, before it launched, too? Like, getting up to that and, like, having it launch and, like, a little bit after that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, Brock mentioned earlier, like, we play a lot of Destiny. So, our outlook of our band is, like, we want to be authentic in everything we do. And so, because we've sunk thousands of hours into Destiny, it made sense for us to be like, hey, like, this thing is just more than just like a pastime. It's like, it's a hobby. It's like a huge part of our world because we've engaged in that community as well. And so we just wanted to write a song about Destiny, and it peaked in the community, and we didn't realize at the time just how much the community was grappling on. It was like, I think a couple days after, like, the Reddit post that somebody else had made about our band in the Destiny Reddit, just going like, yo, have you guys seen this song? It's about Destiny and all this other kind of things. And so I think it was very unexpected for that song to kind of take off the way it did.
I mean, going back to the thing about like the video content, when we wrote that song, we were so passionate about the game, and there wasn't any precedent set. Like, no one had done the Destiny song, so we just felt like our contribution to all the other great things the community's making, art, props, cosplay. Like, we're not good at any of that stuff, but we are musicians, so we were literally just like, we love this game so much too that we want to write a song about it, and then the rest is history, as they say.
That's great. Like, you guys are really artistic with some of your stuff, like the Godzilla video. I loved that. Like, you got the dog dressed up, like, all the buildings, like, did you paint the little windows on and stuff yourself?
That took like 3 months.
I thought so. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think doing like the rough math, I think we had like 700 man hours or something like put into it over the course of 4 people working on it, and every single day. And it was like, we were doing it through the summer, so it was really hot in the garage that we were like kind of building it all, and it was kind of really nice to see it all come together.
Oh, so you did it in your garage? Because I was gonna ask where you filmed it, because I really like the videos for Jet Black and for the cover of Godzilla you did.
Yeah, well, so we try and keep as low key of a video shoot as possible. I mean, even though they're about crazy things like Godzilla and a cardboard building, like, when you reduce all the ideas to their essence, like, we try and really do them as efficiently, cheaply, and as like accessible as possible. Like, we don't really have any interest in like renting cranes and these like big overblown things, because at the end of the day we're fairly simple, in our approach, that we don't want to have to, like, I guess, in a sense, overspend on a video for a song that, as Ian says, it comes from an honest, simple place, that we just feel like throwing money at it in the form of a video is just not who we are, really.
Well, and I think too, when you sort of like interpret a video, so let's just say we had a song about Star Fox, and we don't, but let's just pretend, and we told this story in our song, we acted that story out. It leaves nothing for interpretation. So we want to have at least a little bit ownership for the fans to be like, this is what I believe a song is. And I think if we did videos that were too like, high production value with significant stories, it would take away from the fan experience of like being able to see what they want.
Yeah, we're just the guys writing and singing the songs, and then anyone who makes the time to listen to that song, they can get what they want out of it, because we try to present as bare as possible. Like, it's creative, but we don't want to do too much, in the details.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that makes sense. So I've noticed you've toured a lot too. Like, what was it like touring around America, recording in North Carolina? Like, I saw you guys years ago at the Charlotte Street Arts Center, or as everyone in Fredericton calls it, the Shart Center.
Yeah, like, that's the adventure. Like, we go in the studio, we make these videos, but what we get out of our vocation, I guess, is the traveling the world and playing music and meeting people from, you know, all walks of life and all corners of the world, and that's really gratifying to us. And a lot of the other stuff makes the adventures and the tours easier to get or even materialize in the first place. So I think that is another dimension of, you know, how we create the art. It is the almost like the bare minimums we can get back out there and get on the road and start, you know, doing what we do best, which I think is, yeah, live performance.
Well, and then you find places that you fall in love with. I mean, you mentioned North Carolina, right? Like, Brock and I have been going there on and off for the last, like, I don't know, it feels like forever, really. But,
Yeah.
you know, we've done a whole bunch of songs down there. It started with a single, like, our first time we ever went down, it was, like, over Christmas break, basically. We took, like, a couple days in between Christmas and New Year's to do it. And then we've just been going back ever since, and every time we go, it starts to feel more like home, and you start to find those, like, greasy spoons that you're like, oh, you know, are we going back to, like, Country Junction for biscuits, or like, you know, like, and I find, like, when you start to tour places in the States, you know, like, you find the places that you like. So even though it's always like this wild adventure, there's always going to be something that draws you back to, like,
anchors you.
Yeah, you know, we had an amazing show in Austin, so of course we're going back to Austin. Oh, there's a great barbecue place, and you kind of, like, you get to have this whole experience of seeing the world, not just like, hey, we showed up, it's a music venue, someone brought food to us, and then we just drove to the next music venue that looked the same. Like, we get the opportunity to explore and kind of really take in different cities and countries on an eye level of someone who's there.
Yeah.
That's the best part, and I love to do that even when I do my photography and stuff. Like, I only go through Quebec and Ontario, but, like, I'll show up to Montreal, like, lunchtime, and, like, go to every record store in the city, or, like, go check out tourist stuff. Like, it's the best to just see everything, but also get to experience and go for shows and play and stuff, too.
Absolutely.
So, how many records do you guys have?
I think we did One Big Quicksand back in 2011. We did Tribes in 2014, Unsafe Progress 2016, and then the Alignments will be our fourth. So we have 3 going on 4.
Awesome. Yeah, because the 4th one's coming out soon. I see there's a show coming up. Not the Danko Jones one, but the other one before that. I forget who else is there, but I saw the event.
Yep.
That's pretty exciting. Are you guys stoked for that?
It is. We finished that record June. So a lot of 2019 was like sitting on our hands waiting for the various stages of the record to be finished. And because the last time we had a full release was 2015 going on into 2016. We had a steady stream of singles after that, but this has been, like, I guess, the summation of all the learning and all the preparation we now understand kind of needs to go into a record release in 2019. So it was a lot of patience required on our end to kind of, like, see it through. And now that, these things, like, you know, the launch in Ottawa, that was important for us to get right, because that's going to be, you know, the first in a couple steps of us kind of bringing this record to its, like, full potential, I guess.
Well, I think too, like, you learn from every, like, prior experience you do, right? And you know, we've looked back at how other records have come together, and you know, we wanted to write a record with Alignments to say, if the world ended next week, we wanted it to be the last great record that came out. And so, because we kind of had that mindset of going into the studio and creating it like that, all of the activities that we have between the announcement at the start of the month till the record comes out 6 months from now is based around just making sure that this is the biggest thing that we've ever done.
It's really big. Like, I saw it and I was like, whoa, like, that's gonna be a really big event.
Yeah.
And I think it's really big too. Like, you've toured with, well, not toured, I don't think, but played with Danko Jones twice this year. Like, that's definitely a big step in the right direction. What is that like?
Well, he's like our, we call him, like, the blue collar rocker. You know, he's like a hero to anyone who kind of subscribes to that thing of, like, keep it simple, stupid rock and roll. And and you know, as a Canadian, he's done very, very well internationally, which is also inspiring to a band like us. So yeah, the ability to join him on the spring dates, and now to put the cherry on top here in Ottawa, that was, like, surreal to us, because the band couldn't be nicer guys. You know, they were very accommodating. What do you remember from sharing the road with Danko Jones?
You know, I think if you look at, like, Danko Jones, right, like, he is in a very like little category of like rock royalty in my eyes, right? Like he's friends with all of like the big rock stars. Like if you really think about it, like, you know, he was like friends with Lemmy, and you know, like you see photos of like the Metallica guys and this and that, right? And I think, you know, he's on tour with Volbeat right now, one of the bigger rock bands. And so getting to see somebody who you kind of see in this huge like stratosphere of like a huge company of like rock royalty, and then he's like, hey guys, how's it going? Like I'm Dan.
Yeah,
like
he's super like mild mannered, very,
I know,
you know,
he's
very
like so cool. Like I met him at that Kingston show, and he was just like against the wall with his hood up, and he was just chill as fuck. He was nice. Like it's so nice, because sometimes you're like, they say like don't meet your heroes or whatever, and it's like you get disappointed. Sometimes they're assholes, but he was real cool.
The one thing I remember on the Danko Jones thing was when we played with him in St. Catharines as well, and at the end of the night we were just sort of waiting just to just say good night, see you guys, you know, like next time, and one of his crew or someone was like, you wouldn't know it, but back in the day, Danko was like the last one in the venue. He always wanted to meet any band, no matter how big they were. He just wanted to put a face to name, and just, you know, that rock and roll community is so important to him. So when we were sort of just waiting there kind of sheepishly just to say goodnight, we were kind of reminded, or at least made known, that all those years ago, that was his job, was he would go to all the shows, he'd go and support the bands, and he'd be the last one out of the venue because he was saying goodbye to all of them, kind of thing. So that was kind of cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like you've been to shows yourself, right? It's like music is a community, and I think the musicians are, I mean, not numbers wise, but like half of the equation of that. And I think you know, musicians are an integral part of that community. And I think when we heard that story, it was like something really cool to think about, where it's like, hey, look, there's this guy who, you know, is right now playing stadiums, and it's like, and he was like, hey, what's up, my, you know, so I'm so and so, and I've done this, and you know, and just wanting to meet and connect with other musicians. And it's like, I've never heard of anybody else kind of above that level of like, hey, you know, they're
being that wholesome.
Exactly. It's really nice to know that he's still chill, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys have the new record coming out. Is it going to be on CD? Is it going to be on vinyl too?
This will be our first on vinyl. So that
cool.
was like, I mean, part of the reasons when it came into considering things like digipack or vinyl, you know, how many copies, where are we going to distribute them to? Like, that was a big reason why we signed the deal with Drakkar Records in Germany, because we just simply, in the making of the record and writing all these songs, Ian and I were, I think, ready to finally go, these considerations are now more than just he and I can make by ourselves, fulfilling these orders, figuring, you know, out the right production factories for us. Like, it really is just like we ran out of hours in the day while making the music to like think about all of this. So it's a very like significant release for Ian and I, because it isn't just the first on vinyl, but it is the first on Drakkar Records as well.
Well, I mean, I think they as a team allow us to do things that we've always wanted to do, like a vinyl, where there's not enough time in the day or otherwise, and I think like that's ultimately what's also like the subtext of like this record, is there's all these extra things that we get to do that, you know, we can't even talk about today, but that should be a lot of fun to be able to announce and to put out, because we have a larger team associated with it.
That's so great. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
Do you guys collect records yourselves?
Honestly, like it's something I've wanted to get into, but I think when you're a journeyman, up and coming musician with a bad video game habit, your free money for things like buying a bunch of records gets lower and lower. I mean, we have records. Like, I mean, Ian's got a Face Value record by Phil Collins. This is one of his most cherished possessions, I think.
Love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like the big library, you know, that we all aspire to have, you know, filled with these like great records, you know, I'm lacking in that department.
Yeah, I think like in the interim, it's like, you know, being able to like take advantage of streaming services has like helped just tickle that itch just a little bit, because it's like we travel often, right? So having like an amazing record collection is as cool as that would be, and I have my list of like, oh, this would be really cool to have.
The first purchases you'd make,
the first purchase I'd make when it's like, okay, well, I know we're going to be like in an area for like at least 3 months. Maybe at that point I can like look into starting my record collection. But yeah, it's like I think Face Value is going to be the crowning achievement to any record
Face
collection.
Value is a great album to have, though. It's really great.
Mm-hmm.
So, what artists have inspired you? What bands, like, what really got you into music and wanting to be musicians yourselves?
That is a good question, because I feel like every time I try and remember what band it was, I'm like remembering the last time I remembered it, and I'm not sure if I even remembered it right to begin with. I mean, like, I didn't come from a musical household like he did, because he's got some great like touchstones with the music that inspired him. But for me, like, I don't have vivid memories of hearing a record and that being I want to make music now. I know I liked music, but I was also given Creed CDs for my birthday once or twice. So it's like, it just, whatever music I had access to was like my experience with it. I was never like, where I came from, there was no local concert series. There was no cool record shop like in a place like Montreal. So it was really like my experience of music was what I was allowed to, experience or like, automatically discover.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to it, but I came from a really musical household. My mom kind of grew up in the Toronto music scene, and that kind of had a pretty big like effect on my life, like growing up. Like we would have like Canadian bands almost like never made it out, like the Santers, like, and on a record like the Santers would play, or Honeymoon Suite, or like Platinum Blonde, like just like Canadian bands, right?
Yeah.
And so that was always a huge impact on, like there's this thing called like rock and roll, and it just played in my house, and it was like it just was, like you never questioned like, and whenever I picked up a guitar, it was like, I'm gonna play in a rock and roll band, because that's the only music that there is ever, period. And
well, I knew I'd get beat up if I brought the recorder to school. I mean, like, I think we all learned on a plastic recorder, but when it came time to like turn 13 years old and you see all the people playing some kind of instrument, I was like, well, it's either bring the recorder or learn guitar. So I learned guitar.
I'm not
Good
sure
choice.
I'm not sure I've seen too many classifieds for recorder player.
Yeah.
So, are you self-taught or formally educated musicians?
I mean, well, I took like guitar lessons once I got that aforementioned guitar, but no, I have no credentials to my name when it comes to approved by this entity for knowledge on instrument.
Yeah, I got, I mean, in terms of like a rock and roll stamp of approval, I got kicked out of music class more than I was in music class. So
there you go.
From that perspective, I think, there's no like, there's no level 12 classical national accredited piano playing or anything like that. It's just, the School of Rock and Roll.
Best school to go to.
Absolutely.
So, with the new album, will there be a tour once it comes out? How long will you be on the road or anything like that?
That of course is like, all signs point to that. I think now in the modern age, we really have embraced the notion that being able to measure when the album's out, who is listening, where they're listening, and even things like, favorite song from city to city. I mean, all that is possible now for us to understand. So
that is so cool.
So back in the day when it would just be, let's drive to Edmonton and back and just play wherever the gas or the van runs out of gas. Now we can know exactly 12 tour dates and exactly these places is the right call for our band to do, and we'll get more out of it by learning when alignments is out. Let's say, oh, this town really loves So Dumb, and actually the whole tour loves this song called Parish Song. And it's like, how do we structure the live show to like lean into these revelations where it's like, here's what the fans like, and here's what they don't like, and here's where they live, and I think a lot of that data is just going to be really valuable for us to not go from album release day and then just getting in the van and
it's so valuable.
Potentially losing a lot of money. Now it's going to be, we hope the tour is going to happen like by next summer. We'll have a really clear idea of the results that Alignments has got and where we're going to make good on that.
That's great. If money was no object, what instrument would you buy?
I mean, you've been talking about this lately.
I'm trying to think of like the number one. I mean, we were in Long McQuaid the other day, and there was this like stunning like Fender P. and then I'm looking at getting a custom bass kind of done from a Chinese company. So like I think like if money was no object, I would get like a custom instrument. But like there's so many cool instruments out there. Like I'd love to just be like, here's a theremin, you know, and like just get to like play with a theremin and do that and just kind of like guiltlessly screw around with it and figure out how to do it, because last I checked, Dominic Music Academy doesn't teach theremin. So
yeah, well, I think that's it. Like with, you know, making music digitally, there's a lot to be said with these things like plugins and stuff like that. You could lose, you know, a life's time of money just buying different things that can all be manipulated by like a MIDI controller, but the sounds and experimentation potential, like I think that's something that both Ian and I are interested in, is less so like we want to play vintage gear and stuff that's priceless, and more like we want to grow as creators. And at a certain point, you know, rock guitar, rock bass, and rock drums, even if that's how we want to deliver our music, having something like a theremin and like just exciting parts of your mind that you know, because after a while, we write songs all the time, and it does, I won't say get stale, but it gets very predictable to know you plug in, you go to your favorite settings, you make music, and you wonder, what am I missing out on? Like, there's so much sounds out there.
Well, I think from a creative perspective as well, you know, like when we hear melodies, I don't think Brock and I hear melodies as, oh, well, it has to be on a guitar, but it just happens to be like a lot of the time the guitar is what we have to get those melodies across. I think being able to use like, you know, having like 1,000 different like digital instruments and being able to like create on a MIDI board, like, you know, because we have some of that, but not a boatload of those instruments. And I think it allows us to be in a creative space where it's like we play in a rock band, but we want to push what it means to be in a rock band, but also we want to push what it means to be songwriters. And using just a different, like, you know, like a pipe organ number 2 or something like that, you know, being able to use that and allow us to create different melodies or create different like soundscapes, helps us push what it is that we do, because it lets us get into other interesting things like being able to create video game soundtracks, right? Things that like would get us excited as like general creators beyond just what it is to be in Double Experience.
Exactly. And it's always important to like break into new instruments and things, because you might even start a new trend that people haven't thought of yet that they need, you know? Like, you can always be the person to start something huge.
Yeah. Well, and I think like being a rock band, there is that like purist mentality where it's only these things and none of these things, and that isn't our goal necessarily, because we appreciate that, you know, that limitations can make creativity, but at the same time, yeah, as to your point of, at some point there's new discoveries to be made if only we can look past the things that are like these arbitrary rules of like, and after the second chorus is a guitar solo every time, you know. It's like, that's, I'm a guitar player and I love when that happens in a song, but there's more than one sound and thing that can happen in a song, and we can only discover what that is when we put the nice guitar down once or twice and start going where other sounds are on deck.
Exactly. Like, for example, I even saw Robert Plant when he was here at City Folk Festival, and like, of course, he played some Zeppelin stuff, but all of his stuff with the sensational space shifters, I'm like, why is he not collaborating with the Tea Party?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, very, very, very Eastern influenced, right? I mean,
yeah.
You look at like Zeppelin getting into like Kashmir and stuff, and then you listen to the Tea Party and hear like, you know, I mean, like the Bazaar. Right?
Yeah.
Like that song just has that like Middle Eastern feel to it. And of course, like they nailed everything about it. I mean, that would be an incredible collab, was to see something like that.
I would like die to see that. If you're watching this Tea Party, you know what to do.
Jeff Martin, reach out to Robert Plant. Robert Plant, reach out to Jeff Martin. Do it now.
Do it. All right. So, if you guys could meet any musician from the past or present, who would it be?
Wow. That is a great question. Wow. I mean, knee-jerk reaction, I could say a bunch, but I feel like this question deserves... Because, you know, the musicians who are no longer here, those are the ones that you'd cherish. Because the ones still here, you know, I'm a never say never kind of guy. You know, if I had one wish, you know, dead or alive, I mean... I'd like to, the optimist in me says the ones alive, it's only a matter of time. But the ones that are gone, yeah, I don't know, like Jimi Hendrix or someone, someone who was around for such a small window of time. I think has the most potential for like what could have been, you know.
Well, I think Hendrix popped into my head too, and I think if you consider what Hendrix was, he wasn't just a guitar player, right? Like he changed the game.
He really did.
And it would be incredible to just sit down with somebody like that and get into their headspace. Like, hey, let me pick your brain for like an hour.
Yeah, the truth is no one knew they wanted Jimi Hendrix, but when he showed up, everyone was like, there it is. Mm-hmm. That is, you know, it just spoke to so many people. And when you're a nerd rock band, you know, I won't say that the world is unanimously asking for nerd rock, but we do find when our music connects with the right person, I see that same feeling of, there it is. You know, it's some rock music that isn't just about the same old thing. And I think, yeah, Jimi Hendrix was, you know, guitar-based blues, but he did not approach it the same old way, you know?
I mean, I think I'd almost want to be like, and this is breaking your question a little bit, but I think I'd almost want to be like a fly on the wall for like when the Beatles were writing like the White Album or something, like something that was just so revolutionary, where it's like, yeah, like, and just be able to be like, what, like, I mean, and I know like there's information out there, but it's all like, there's so much hearsay, right? It's like, did they stumble into something and it made them great? And I don't think that happened, but it would just be amazing to just be there just like a ghost.
Yeah.
And just like take it in without interacting with them. And
yeah, for the purposes of knowledge and learning and understanding, you know.
Would be amazing. So you mentioned nerd rock. I think that is a great thing that people need nowadays. You think like all the Twitch streams and everything out there, like, keep at it. Like, it will get big, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's just from where our perspective was. I mean, a lot of stuff that is called nerd rock tends to be wrapped up in like 8-bit sound effects and
or like Weezer.
Yeah, and it's very like, that's cool, it's creative. And then rock music, I mean, a lot of these bands that, you know, will remain nameless, but their job is just to stay angry, and they're angry all the time, and their songs are. So our band, we don't relate to either of those two things in their extreme, and we find that no one ever thought to just do exactly in the middle, like something upbeat and energetic, but just not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. At least not all the time, every song, or, you know, broken hearts and stuff. It's like, it's been done. It's been well established, and our band just really wanted to prove you can do either of those two extremes I just mentioned without falling into like the tropes and the cliches.
Well, I think the world of identifying as a Sens fan or a Leafs fan is like, yes, that's a thing that happened, but it's like, are you a Marvel man or a DC man? Like, and I think like as you know, like Marvel released like the next like 7 years of Marvel movies, so it's like, it's not like the things that all of us get like excited about and nerding out about are going away, and it's like I mentioned earlier, like we want to just be authentic, and it's like, we love movies, like we're cinephiles, we go to movies all the time, you know, like we love playing games, and like these are things that it's like, you know, Brock and I play with millions of other people online, so it's not just like we're the only two people in the world like wanting to go see, you know, the Joker movie or going to see like Eternals whenever the hell it comes out, right?
Yeah.
But it is interesting when we go and make an appearance at a Comic-Con or something, and as we meet people and we say we play in a nerd rock band, it's always like, what is that? Like what's nerd rock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like you're surrounded. Yeah, you have the Joker shirt on, my man. It's like you don't know about bands that write about nerd things, and most people like they don't, which is like, it's crazy to me.
It is crazy. Like, I feel it's something that really needs to get known, but once it gets known, it's gonna like blow up massively, you know?
Yeah.
So what's your all-time favorite album?
I think I can almost safely say now we made the discovery of the Police a few years ago, and we had to play in a Police tribute band, so having to like dissect the songs, I think if I was on a desert island kind of thing, one song would play on rotation till I went crazy. It would be Walking on the Moon by the Police. So I forget what album that's on, or if I remember it, I can't pronounce the name because it was like vaguely in French, but
yeah.
but it was like, that song I have in my head all the time.
It's such a great song.
Yeah, so I would say that.
Yeah, I mean to move off of the police, because it's like that's an easy Me Too answer,
Yeah.
but it's like, I love Genesis. Like,
Yeah.
We Can't Dance would probably be like the record that I would have to, like, if the police never existed. Yeah, it would be We Can't Dance by Genesis for sure.
That's awesome. What would you guys like people to know about you?
I don't know. I mean, other than what we've already talked about, because this was very expansive, and we've seen the world, and our band has like a message and a perspective, I guess. I mean, that I think it really is like what you get is what you see. When you come to a Double Experience show, there is no like theatric costume. There is no otherworldly aspect to our band, other than we like what we like, and we like it so much that when you put an instrument in our lap, that's all we can write about, kind of thing. So if you want to get to know us, any of the songs are like, that's how we feel, what we think, and what we like.
That's awesome.
And I genuinely feel that more so than maybe some other bands, because that is just, it's so encompassing all of our interests that when we go back in the car now and drive home, we're going to start talking about Destiny lore. I know it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite local band?
From the Ottawa scene,
Yeah.
I would say we really get along with this band called Civilian. We think that they just have like the right mentality about, again, sort of what we were mentioning about these rock bands embracing a new way of doing things. I think that they embody that for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Is it the easy Me Too answer?
Yeah, it is an easy Me Too answer. Yeah.
Is there a spot where we can see you jam?
Well, so we're like, jam is in a freeform jam, or as in like play a show?
As in like a freeform jam?
It's so funny because we used to, when we would create music, we would do the thing of we'd all get in a room and look at each other and say, what are we playing? And it would just be a lot of like just fumbling in the dark for hours trying to think of something. My last jam would probably been those days when I decided there's got to be a better way than this system. So I haven't had a good jam, free form, pentatonic for an hour kind of evening for years now. I don't know about you.
No, I mean, like, we've had like a 10-minute like, hey, let's figure out a live part, and then it just doesn't end kind of thing. But like, those are few and far between. I mean, but saying that, like, Brock and I have been talking about and are planning to do like live streams where it's like it's not like a planned concert live stream, but it's like it's a little bit more free form, where it'll be like, engage with our audience, talk about like things that are coming up, things that we've done, reflect on the last period. And it's like, I mean, not to say I'll take requests or to do a live version of something to just blanket that, but I totally see us being like, getting something out of left field in terms of, hey, could you play song X from record Y of yours? And I think, given the right circumstances, I would jam something out.
Yeah, just to keep us on our toes. You know what I mean? Again, it goes back to the thing of, we look to things like the pipe organ and theremin not to use them, but to get inspired. And I think we could look at something like he's saying, a live stream is not the only way and the best way to present music, but as a way to go, what was it like thinking on your feet like that, and what did that do for the brain creatively? Well,
and I think too, like, every time that we go into studio, without trying to give too much away, we always like post like a sneaky snippet here and there. And not that we're always in studio or that we'll be in studio at any time soon, but it's always nice for us to like tease new material. So I wouldn't say like, an open to the world jam or an open to the world tease is something that we'll do every week, but like, sometimes we get a little excited too with some of the music, and it's not unheard of to accidentally stream something for a hot second.
Yeah, it's happened before for sure.
That's awesome. Where do you guys hope to see yourselves in 5 years?
On stage somewhere. I mean, like, one of the things, I guess, like, one of the tenets that our band comes back to is when we have a plane ticket pretty much anywhere in the world, and people will show up and see us at wherever that place is, I think that's success to us. It's not the size of the room or the amount of people. I think we just want in 5 years the license to go anywhere that we've either been or want to go, and there will be a contingent of people who just have looked forward to that show all week or month or year. Whatever that paradigm, however that looks, I'm not going to trip over the specifics, but that's definitely what we want.
It's good to aim for.
Yeah, it's like the career has always been like number one. I mean, you know, selfishly, I'm sure both Brock and I could give you like, oh yeah, we'd love to headline like San Diego Comic-Con or like you know, selfish things of like, yeah, I'm a nerd and
like have our music in a video game. It's like, these are all like things that, you know, those are the dreams of Sugar Plums dancing in our head.
Absolutely.
But the reality is there is no like, you know, template for here's how to get your song into a video game. It's like, I think it's total happenstance. So therefore, it's not something I'm actually planning on too hard. But boy, that would be great. You know what I mean? Like absolutely. that would be awesome.
That would be really great. Do you have a favorite modern rock musician?
I think my favorite modern rock musician. See, again, it's almost like the whole like living or dead thing. It's like there's so many that I could say, because, you know, one of the obvious ones I think for our band would be like, you know, a Queens of the Stone Age, because Josh has had so many more projects than just Queens of the Stone Age. He has that like, you know, the itch that can never be scratched of like, whether it's Iggy Pop or members of Led Zeppelin or Dave Grohl, he's found a way to make music with them. And I think for me that like, I like the idea that as Double Experience goes on, whether it's co-writes or collaborations or, you know, I see Ian on stage, you know, guest vocaling, you know, for some other band. I think I like the idea of our band, you know, plays well with others, and it's that multiplayer experience of like, we're not just, you know, like U2 and Bono, where it's the same guy since high school and you rarely see them outside of the U2 context. It's like, I like the musicians who can kind of shed I'm the guy from this band, and they can be like, I want to play with all bands. I want to make music however they can.
That's the best.
Well, it would be really interesting to meet or even to get in a room with a guy like Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, because it's like the dude is such like a creative guy. And if you look at like what Weezer's done, it's like you know, like you go from like the Sweater song to like, you know, Feels Like Summer or something, and it's like they are so diverse, but it's always Weezer, and so you don't just get like, yeah, I got Weezer 7 records ago or something, right? It's like I got Weezer with the Blue Album. It's like Pinkerton delivered something new, and the Black Album with covers was something new, and I think it's like being able to just look at that band for like, you guys deliver me a sonic experience that I wasn't certain that I needed, but oh boy, am I glad that I received it.
Weezer always delivers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have a favorite Led Zeppelin song?
Battle of Evermore, straight up.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was waiting for that. I would think Moby Dick.
Moby Dick's rad.
It's just because, like, I mean, I'm the guitar guy. I gotta give it up for, you know, a creative riff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Lord of the Rings guy, so Battle of Evermore always like spoke to me as like, yeah, straight up.
What was the first concert you ever went to, and what's your favorite concert to date that you've been to?
Okay, I think my first concert was technically Sharon, Lois, and Bram, so that was like, you know, like child entertainers, but that was so cool to me because, again, like Brockville never got like, oh, we get Bryan Adams every week and things like that. It was like, that was obviously something I begged my parents to take me to because I'm sure they didn't want to go to see Sharon, Lois, and Bram, so I think that was mine. I'm sure you have a cooler answer than that.
I mean, my first concert was the Guess Who with Joe Cocker. So that was
awesome.
I think I was like 11 years old or something. So like that was wicked. It was like to the day, it's like the only show I've ever seen where the opening act had a double encore. Like it was like Joe Cocker came out twice, and like, you know, so that was amazing. And then I don't know, like I've seen Robert Plant, like he was good. I mean, I saw Queens of the Stone Age open for the Mars Volta, open for Red Hot Chili Peppers back when like nobody knew Queens of the Stone Age, so that was kind of
that would have been amazing.
Yeah. But I didn't realize what I was seeing at the time. I was like, Californication's a great song, and then you know, and then like you look back and it's like, wow, like, you know, Mars Volta and Queens were like seminal bands.
The concert I'm like, that is my favorite and that I'm proudest to have seen was Motorhead in Toronto. because Clutch opened the show, but I remember Lemmy just came out with his "We are Motorhead, we play rock and roll," and it was just the loudest fucking concert I've ever seen. But I knew when I saw the tickets for that show, Clutch and Motorhead, I was like, I am so there. Mm-hmm. And this was, I can't remember if this was the last Toronto show Motorhead had played, but it was that was my favorite concerts ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard from everyone Motorhead is so loud. Like, I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
Like, I've been to shows I thought were loud, like Godsmack, and like Snoop Dogg, surprisingly, was louder than Godsmack.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm sure the sub frequencies at a Snoop Dogg show are just
it's
unreal.
the only time I've ever had to ask security for earplugs.
Yeah.
So when was your guys' last show?
We played in Toronto 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Cool.
3 nights ago, something like that. It was on Friday.
All the days are blurring together. Yeah. We were out late
it's my
all those
life.
nights. Yeah. No, so we and yeah, it was Toronto.
Yeah, we played at a place called Cherry Cola's, which is kind of like, it's like a cool little like rock and roll cabaret venue, and it's frequented by like, I mean Queens of the Stone Age
Eagles
and like Eagles of Death Metal.
I've wanted to go there. Like, you always see the coolest people there, and it's like, just imagine showing up one night, shoot the shit, and Josh shows up. It's like,
yeah. Well, I think then like the Flaming Lips a little while ago played Toronto, and the after party was there. So it's like, it is like, you'd blink if you blinked passing it by, you'd miss it, because you would never see outside this like crazy here's Cherry Cola's kind of thing. But for those who know, it's
well, and it's weird. It's like it's on like basically like a cross junction. There's like like a 3-story apartment like across the street, like a Starbucks and an old like apartment over there. So you wouldn't think that this
cabaret,
this
place.
Rock and roll cabaret, this establishment of like rock culture is here, there. And it's like, yeah. But it's like the vibe is just so right for rock and roll.
It is. Like, I've never been there, but all the pictures I see and everything, like, I'm dying to go there. Like, I think even Duff McKagan was there. Like, just all the people that walk in, like, that'd be a rad spot to work at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's never, they don't just pull, those who like that vaudevillian thing. It's like, yeah, you get like the like punk rock guys, like metalheads. It's like, it's just a cool place that everyone kind of just lets it all, like, their freak flag fly, I guess, which speaks to me.
That's great. Where did you guys play your first show?
We played in Brockville. There's a festival called Riverfest.
Yeah.
And that was his first show.
Well, that was our first show, was Double Experience, really. So it was like,
yeah.
It wasn't Double Experience yet, but that was our first show together in what would eventually become.
Yeah, Double Experience.
What's your most memorable tour, and what's your most memorable experience out of all of them with the band?
Well, last winter we did a European tour. That was like our first real foray into not just grinding it out, like setting up in the corner of a bar kind of thing, but this was like, there was a run time, and we had it a little bit strange because we were providing all the amps and like equipment for that tour. So whenever the headliner would finish, we'd have to pack up, get it in the van, drive and beat the headliner to the next show to set it up. So like that tour ran us thin in terms of like physical health, sanity. But there was the crowds at some of these shows. I mean, yeah, we it was just such a, in one fell swoop, we got to see from England all the way to Hungary. It was just...
That's wild.
So, because every other tour has usually been like this very focused, like, we're going to do England, we're going to go here for, Reaper Bond Fest, we're going to go down to Texas and back. But this was like, get ready to see, Western Europe boys.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, what other artists have you worked with on these tours?
So we did the tour with Danko Jones. We toured with like like an American rap rock band that Brock had mentioned, called Head PE. But I mean, like, our band kind of believes in collaboration on all fronts, not just on tour, but like in studio we got to do.
It's important to collaborate.
Yeah. I mean, even when we go on tour, we will have, it's because Ian and I are sort of like the nucleus of Double Experience. And if that means, for a tour, this drummer, that drummer, second guitar player, keyboard player, the goal of Double Experience is to basically create this system where each tour is not like this unique, inconsistent thing, but the idea is that when we go out on tour, we do what makes sense for that tour and for the show and the bill that we're on, and all of these things are considered more than just Ian and I going, what are the songs you want to play, and let's go play them. Like we definitely, and again with the things like the Spotify data, we always love the challenge of every tour do a different live moment, and collaborate with the musicians that we have to like bring out the best in the show, no matter how long we're playing for, an hour, 30 minutes, you name it.
That's great. What gear do you use?
Lately we've made the switch from using like the big amps to plugging in direct, and we've done that mostly for practicality reasons. Like I remember the first tours, our band was like looking up shipping amps and drums on a boat to England and renting and paying exorbitant fees, and it just got to the point where we were like, what are we doing? Like all this good money. So we just invested in something that could basically fit in a backpack, and that's the amp. And that's like, so I think, and then for like guitars and specific brands, like even then we have no allegiance to anything other than does it work and stay in tune. Because I don't think I've been seen with like the same guitar consistently for more than a tour. It's always like a different thing because it's got to just work. And
I think it goes back a little bit to what we were talking about how we create, right? And it's like, we use the different instruments digitally to create cool sounds, and I think being a two-piece and allows us to get creative in terms of like putting things together for a live show. So maybe this show it's a drummer and a guitar player and a bass player, and maybe a show 6 months from now we've just hired robots and it's just screens of our faces just singing along. I think the sky's the limit in terms of being able to use the newest technologies at our disposal to try and create something cool, because we've all been in that dirty, sweaty rock and roll show where there's just a band just full energy for an hour, and I think like that appeals to us as players and also as fans of rock music. But I think being able to use new technologies to create something a little different than what's expected from a rock band is also incredibly important.
And that's the
Very
thing.
important.
That sweaty rock and roll show, I mean, makes perfect sense at midnight at a bar. If we play a convention at 2 p.m. where it's all ages and it's not just 19 plus and alcohol drinkers, so it's like these are the considerations that our band are making now, which is how do you deliver the best kind of show 30 minutes at a convention, and realizing that show shouldn't translate to a bar, and for an hour-long set with raucous fans who want to enjoy their Friday night. We believe that we're not a one-size-fits-all operation in that regard, and we'll use whatever gear and whatever other devices and trickery to make those shows the best they can be.
I think that's really important. Like, props to you guys on that. Like, that's one of the most important things you can do, really.
Thank you.
So, have you noticed your musical style change throughout the years?
Oh yeah, I definitely. I mean, style, yes, and even just like the songwriting and the craft. Mm-hmm. I won't say I'm embarrassed of the things that we've made in the past, but I think it really is like the growth is evident, and being able to see that the goal was always make the best music we could, as opposed to what's in now is like 6-piece Christian hardcore, so let's do that for a record, and then let's do like we don't chase like personal change on that front. We all we've ever tried to do is write the best songs possible, and I can see that we've gotten better without even throwing a genre on it.
I think rock and roll is an ethos as much as it is like people on stage with rock instruments, right? So I think it's like if you can separate the two, like we will always be a rock band in terms of ethos, but it might not be a rock band in terms of like, well, we just have to have it like rock instruments, right? Like in terms of like, I mean, using samples or having like a synthesizer player on stage or bringing on a guitar player, like just like interesting things like that where it's like it still rocks, but it can have this sound that doesn't just have to be AC/DC done 100 times, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
and that's why one of the songs we've covered is "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen, because we look to Queen as like, that's like a rock band right there. Like, they are the epitome of creativity, but it all got wrapped up in guitar, bass, singer with a piano, or in 2019 could be a keyboard, a digital, and a drummer. And it's like, in that format, they did not just write the same song 80 times. Like, they had ballads, they had fast songs, slow songs, they did the disco thing a little bit, right? So it's like, we look to Queen as like, yeah, if our band could be in company of anything, it'd be more so like that than the rock fist bands, which they're all out there, but that is, I'm sure Queen did a lot of this too with their
well, and I like moments in our set where I can go like, let's see this rock fist, but then equally I think it's like nice to be able to push past that.
Anthems. Yeah.
That's really awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming over. You're my second interview so far. I did radio in my past, but I decided to switch to video format. So thank you for coming and being the second.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.